10 special edition Fairyloot books, 9 eliminations. There can only be one winner. Welcome to the Fairyloot Trials. Hi, my name is Beck. I love books. I love books a little bit too much. And I have come up with an idea to get rid of, hopefully, a few books from my bookshelves. It's based on something I saw my friend Kat doing. And basically the concept is, you read 10 books, you read the first chapter of all 10, and then just based on the first chapter alone, you eliminate one book. Then you read the second chapter of the remaining 9, and you eliminate another book, and so on and so forth. At the end, you have 2 books that you think you really would like to continue, and those 2 books battle it out to become the Fairyloot champion. I think that I have done this one time before in shorts on TikTok and on Instagram. It was really fun. It was quite tense. My favourite book switched positions 2-3 times throughout the trials, throughout the challenge, and I had a great time. I managed to take 6 books off my TBR and sell them, and I managed to find a good 3 new favourite reads out of it. So hopefully the books I've chosen this time, either I'll find new favourites or I'll be able to make some space on my shelves. I've got to the stage now where I'm being much more intentional about my reading, and not every book that a book subscription sends me is actually for me anymore. I'm getting to the stage where, as you'll have seen, I've cancelled a couple of my subscriptions. So these are books that I've either had for a while, and there's a couple here. I think actually all of these are quite old books that I've had for a wee while, but I could do one with some recent subs as well. So let me show you who the contenders are for the Fairyloot Trials. I may set up a little camera here so that you can see what I'm doing and what I'm reading. Hopefully that works fine. So the first contender is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. The next contender is The Night Ends with Fire. Contender number 3 is Long Live Evil. Contender number 4 is a very popular one. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. It's The Crimson Moth. I know it's absolutely beloved, and sometimes when a book is absolutely beloved, the tension and the pressure to like it kind of ruin it. So I'm hoping that's not the case here. I've heard great things about it. Contender number 5 is The Half King. Then we have contender number 6, which is The Darkening. I just randomly picked these books off my shelves. Contender number 7 is A Feather So Black. Contender number 8, we have The City of Stardust. Contender number 9, big chunky one, we have The Wind Weaver. And contender number 10, we have The Darkness Within Us. Okay, so let me pop these books back over where they're meant to go for now. So as you can see, a whole range of books here. Some of them I have already made the fatal mistake of buying book 2 in the series before I've even read book 1, as sometimes I have been known to do. I am trying to be so much better at not doing that. So basically, how this is going to work is, I thought it would be fun to record myself reading at least the first chapter of each of the books. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, so I might do the second chapter and show you some results as well, but I might not. I'll see how long the first chapters take. I'm going to speed it up, obviously. You don't have to watch it at a pace, so that you can see my live reactions. Hopefully mostly positive, although I am quite a reactive person, so you will see negative reactions as well if there are any. And then at the end of the little sped up montage section of me reading, I'm going to let you know what my rankings are after round 1 of the Fairyloot Trials, and let you know which book's in pole position and which book is being eliminated. We'll see how many rounds we can kind of fit into one video. It might just be one round, it might be a couple. And then I'll let you know essentially either at the end of the video who the winner is, or whether I'm splitting it into a couple of videos. It's all up in the air. We'll see how the reading goes. So you know I already set up my little cam for reading. So I'm just going to get stuck into reading some of these chapters now. Okay, so I have read the first chapter in all 10 books. I'm just about to see if I can put them in an order. Let's see. Okay, so I have ranked the first chapter of all these books in order, and the book that is being eliminated, the book in 10th place, will be The Wind Weaver. I think this is one of the Fairyloot romantasy books. I feel like the romantasy books generally have been poorer quality books. I'm not sure why. This story actually sounds quite good, but I have a bit of an issue that I think will niggle at me the whole time. I don't know if you saw when I was reading in my super sped up montage, but this writer is white, and in the first chapter, somebody uses a magical racial slur against the character, and they're talking about like the impact of racial slurs and racial oppression. And I understand that it's magical racial oppression, but it just feels a little bit icky to me. Obviously, people can write about characters from all sorts of different races and all sorts of different backgrounds, and this is a fantasy book. But that and the sort of frivolous tone wasn't my favourite. So we're going to be saying goodbye to The Wind Weaver. That doesn't necessarily mean I won't read it though. These books generally were much, much better quality than the 10 books I picked for my first Fairyloot Trials. The book that I am just saving in 9th place is The Darkness Within Us. This was okay. I feel like I've read that chapter before. This is a companion novel to The Shadows Between Us, which I have read and didn't love. I thought I've heard that this one is more fun. I'm not sure. It was quite tense. It was quite good. It's in 9th position. Nothing astounding. In 8th position, we have Last Tale of the Flower Bride. Now, this was probably the most sophisticated in terms of literary wise out of all the books that I read. It was the sort of the most verbose, the most richly written, but it was kind of giving heist-ish sort of thefts and bartering and trading things, and I don't like that. But I would like to continue it for another couple of chapters to see if that was just the opening. So that is in 8th place at the moment. In 7th place, we have The City of Stardust. This seems like it's going to be a bit of a mystery fantasy, and I don't really love things that are sort of mystery based. I also am not sure quite who the narrator is going to be yet. Is the narrator going to be a man? Is the narrator going to be a woman? Is it going to be told through multiple POV? Couldn't quite get to grips with it. So this one is that low for that reason. Then we have A Feather So Black. So A Feather So Black is about halfway. Some of these middly ones, it was just tiny little things in terms of ranking them. This one was quite good. It was just quite predictable. The first chapter was sort of a magical person in hiding loses control of their magic, almost. I feel like that happens in almost every young adult book that is like that, or adult book that is like that. So then we have the top 5 now, and number 5 we have The Darkening. The reason that I've put this so highly is because I thought that it was a really, really unique concept for the world. The world building was really unique. I feel like it's quite complex, the world that the writer has written. So we'll see. We'll see what this turns out like. I hope that I'll be able to continue it for another few chapters before I make a judgment on that. In 4th place, we have The Half King by Melissa Landers. I quite liked this, to be honest with you. It's sort of based on... It seems to be based on like a heavily religious environment, and as is a very typical trope, the main character seems to not be able to access or not to have magic. So we'll see how that goes. And then in 3rd position, I've got Long Live Evil. The reason I have this so highly is because I laughed so many times when I was reading the chapter. But it's a really weird concept, as in like, I don't want to obviously ruin the book, but this is just the first chapter, so I have no idea what the actual concept is. The main character is a basically a grumpy lady who has been very, very ill and ends up sort of going into a fictional world, a world that she thought was fictional, kind of. But it was quite funny. I laughed quite a lot when I was reading that, which is why it is so high. In second place, after one chapter, I have The Crimson Moth. This was nothing special so far, but it was really well paced, well written, and I like things that are witchy. Generally, this is quite a witchy introduction. I like the sort of stories that are about hunting down and catching witches, because it did happen. There's that sort of magical realism aspect to it. That means the book that I have in number 1 is, at the moment, after one chapter, The Night Ends with Fire, which is not what I expected to have as my favourite book so far. It is, again, a very typical trope. There is a young woman, I think she's 18 or 20, and she is going to be forced to marry because her gambling father needs the dowry. But what I quite liked that was slightly different here is the stepmother isn't in collusion with the dad here. The stepmother is sort of a sympathetic bystander to the dad's abusive behaviours. And so I thought that was good. It's beautiful anyway. So, after round 1 of the Fairyloot Trials, that's my ranking of the 9 books. What do you think? Do you think this is a fair ranking of how these books would be if you've read any of them? Now that you've seen my first impressions of all of the books, my live reactions to reading them, I will update you when I am halfway through and let you know what the next 4 books are that I've opted to eliminate. And then I will come and let you know what my sort of podium books will be. My bronze, silver and gold almost. And what I'll do is I'll check in again right at the end and let you know who the winner of the Fairyloot Trials is going to be. It is the next day. The sunflowers sadly are no more, and I've spent most of yesterday and today reading the second chapters of the remaining 9 books, the third chapters of the remaining 8 books, and so on. And I now have my top 5. So let me just show you the books that were eliminated 9th through 6th, I guess. So the book that was in 9th place that I eliminated was this one, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I just didn't really like the narration. I didn't really like the concept of it. So that one is in 9th place. The book that was eliminated next, the book in 8th place, was City of Stardust. This was quite mystery heavy, I feel. I wasn't really given enough information in those 3 chapters to decide whether I was interested in the mystery or not. And that's why this is it's such a fun way to do things. My first impression wasn't great. Will I go back to the book? Maybe. But right now, I don't feel like I really vibe with it very much. Now, this is a book that I definitely will go back to. The book in 7th place was Long Live Evil. This was quite funny. There was a contrast between sort of modernity and classicness, I guess. I'm not sure if I've done those numbers right. So the 10th, 9th, 8th. Yeah, this should be 7th. This should be the book in 7th place. Hopefully that's what I said. I think that I will have to read this at a time when I'm not reading any of these other fantasy books, or perhaps audiobook it, because the juxtaposition between the story that you're expected to know within the story of this book, if you've read it, you'll know what I mean. Because you're not actually told the story, you kind of have to focus on it quite a lot. And I'm finding that I just need a book that's I'm gonna sink into at the moment. This one is not it. It also, obviously I read chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. And up to chapter 4, there are some things where the character is from the contemporary world, but she ends up in a historical fantasy world. And she says things that are contemporary, and sometimes the characters will call her out in it and be confused, but sometimes they won't, and it'll just be there and they'll just let it slide. And I feel like it's really inconsistent, and that's bothering me at the moment, so that's why this one was eliminated. And then the book in 6th place was The Darkness Within Us. This went a lot further than I expected because the woman was really strong-willed, and I really quite liked that. But I feel like this is quite a predictable story now, and actually, I don't really care. No offense to the writer, I'm sure it is wonderful, and I know it is a companion novel to the other book by the writer. But actually, compared to some of the intricate stories that the other books were in these trials, this one has to go. So that means we have our top 5. So, in 5th place, barely clinging on at the moment, we have The Crimson Moth. I have so many friends who love this book. I really do. But at the moment, I'm not really sure that there's anything that, apart from an interesting sort of witchy concept, that I love about it. There was a part in chapter 2 where I thought it might get a bit sapphic, and I was like, and then I was like, of course it's not sapphic. This to me is the same story as Serpent and Dove. So at the moment, this is just clinging on to the top 5. It may be that it's my next elimination. I'm not sure. The next chapter will have to do some heavy lifting to keep it in. I'm not saying it's a book I'll never finish though, but for the concept of this video, for the trials, that's currently in 5th. In 4th is The Night Ends with Fire. Now, I know I've said a lot about some of these books being predictable, and this ostensibly is a Mulan retelling, which of course is a retelling. But I really like it. The vibes are great. The narration's quite whimsical. There are sort of magical secrets in it. Big fan of this so far. That's in 4th place. The book that is in 3rd place at the moment is The Darkening. This one's shot way up the scale as I was reading it. The concept of the storm in the world is really, really interesting. And actually, the main character is flawed and has been through hardship, and I really believe it. I feel like I really believe the stakes in this book, and that's why it is in 3rd. So currently, in 2nd place, we have A Feather So Black. I am quite enjoying the Irish mythological creatures in this book. I'm quite enjoying a lot of the story, actually. But I feel like our main character is a little bit gullible, and that might annoy me. So that's what's keeping it out of 1st place. But ironically, the book that is in 1st place, The Half King, has the most gullible main character of all. But I kind of understand why this main character is more gullible than some of the other ones. And I really like what this book is kind of saying about organised religion and the church and sort of, I guess, cultish brainwashing behaviours and things like that. So this one currently is in 1st place. So that's how it's going halfway through. I'll come back in a couple of days and I'll let you know what my top 2 books are, and then I will let you know ultimately what the winner is. Okay, so a few days have passed. I do have new Galaxy hair. I've tried, the hairdresser put it in Dutch braids for me to try and keep it away from basically the sun cream and the sun, because it was very, very hot today. So apologies for the straight back hair look, but I have finished. I have read the top 2 books in the Fairyloot Trials. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in the top 5, because that'll be the last update that I recorded for this video. So the first book in the top 5 to leave was A Feather So Black. I kind of just felt like I didn't have the same pull as the other stories did. I still think I will finish this one. This is a big change from when I have done these trials before. I have ended up with 5 books at least that I definitely think that I will finish, which is exciting. Then the next book that I eliminated was The Crimson Moth. This one did disappoint me a little bit. I have heard from so many people how good this book is, and I'm sure that it is great. I'm sure it does build to being very good, but at the stage of reading, and by the time I got to finish chapter 7 or chapter 8, I had read about 50 pages. I just didn't care about the dual narrative. I didn't care about either character enough to really want to read on, and other books had made me want to read. So I have downloaded this book. I will read it this weekend. It's not put me off reading it, but it didn't compel me enough to catapult it into my top 3. So the book in 3rd place in the Fairyloot Trials, just missing out on the coveted top 2 spots, is The Half King. I was very surprised by how quickly I sank into this book. It wasn't a literary masterpiece. It was just good fun. The concept was really interesting. The character, yeah, I had quite high hopes for the connection I had with the character. This is another book that I have already downloaded and I will finish. The reason I'm not going to finish reading my actual physical book is because, as I said, I'm going away. This book also is really fast paced. So where I'd read 50 pages in the same amount of The Crimson Moth, I had read 122 pages of The Half King. And so I think it just moves a little bit faster than the other books, which is maybe why it did so much better. So that means that the top two were The Night Ends with Fire and The Darkening. And I can announce that the winner of the Fairyloot Trials, this is season 2, but the first season on YouTube, is The Darkening. Out of all 10 of these books, and I completely finished The Darkening and The Night Ends with Fire, The Darkening was absolutely, hands down, a 5-star read for me. I loved it right from the get-go. The concept was really, really fascinating. It works its way up and up. I really liked the main character. The stakes were really high. The ending was really dramatic without descending into chaos. The magic system, I guess the language that they use, is unique. And I cannot wait to read the second book in this series. So this is the winner, hands down, of the Fairyloot Trials. So glad that I have read this. I'm also glad that I have read the book that came in second place. This was my favourite for a long while, but actually this book descended into a little bit too much chaos for me. I feel like the writer didn't quite give the ending the time and space that it needed to really have impact. And there was quite a lot of repeated motifs in the sort of 3/4 way through the book time period. And then at the end of the book, it was very, very sudden. I did like quite a lot of the character development in this book, and I did like quite a lot of the cast of this book as well. But you couldn't trust anybody in this book, which was very, very good. I just think that the chaos this descended into made it overall a weaker read than The Darkening. So there we have it. That is the season of the Fairyloot Trials over. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching and please consider subscribing. Would you be interested in seeing another Fairyloot Trials like this? Would you be interested in seeing an Illumicrate Trials, for example? Is this something that you could see yourself doing? Let me know how you feel and I'll see you next time. Bye!